Jura is changing, and it's for the worse. As in the most recent chapter of the Boruto series, we see this being hinted towards, a change in Jura's character, and with everything that he has been reading about and the build-up in his character, this change is going to be permanent. As although most of the chapter focused on Sarada's awakening of the Mangekyo Sharingan and her essentially using one of the Mangekyo Sharingan's abilities for the first time. Although that was the case and was quite important, another crucial event ended up taking place, and that is the fact that Jura ended up crying. And a lot of people ended up glossing over it, like it didn't mean much, pitying Jura for everything that he has had to see. However, this is a moment that a lot of us might end up coming back when noticing a change in Jura's attitude. Villains crying in both the Naruto and Boruto series is not something that is quite common. We usually see it take place in a villain's backstory, which explains exactly why they ended up the way they did, or during their conclusion, when they realize that they are wrong. However, this is not the case for Jura. This is not the backstory of Jura, or even his conclusion, as we are far from it. However, this is a crucial event that will end up changing Jura. And there has been debates onto why exactly Jura is crying in this moment. And the most popular opinion, and the opinion that most people are leaning towards, is that of Jura crying because he is feeling the emotions that Matsuri is currently feeling. We see a Matsuri in this chapter who is also crying at a Konohamaru who is backstabbing him. This has led to a lot of people believing that the reason that Jura is crying is because they are a biological unit and are essentially feeling each other's emotions. All of the Shinjus are connected in some way, and thus they can feel their emotions, or at least Jura can feel the emotions of every single Shinju. However, I beg to differ, and I truly believe that this is the wrong interpretation. Yes, it is true that they are one biological unit. However, the conversation of them being able to feel each other's emotions has been one that has already been discussed in the series, as we literally have in chapter 5 this very same topic being discussed. And it's not like it was with another Shinju, it was with Matsuri herself, which at that moment reveals exactly what Jura can feel regarding the Shinju and what exactly it means for the Shinju to be a biological unit. As we have a Matsuri in that chapter, who obviously, just after the confrontation with Code, they end up going back to the cube lair, where we see this claw mark cube, and they end up discussing their targets, and where we have a Matsuri who picks at Konohamaru, saying that she can feel his grief due to the fact that Moegi has been turned into a tree, also commenting on the grief that she feels from Team 10. Which is why in that moment she ends up picking out Konohamaru as the person who is going to be her target, what her instincts are telling her to devour. In that moment, Jura literally says that although they are a biological unit, her emotions are hers alone, and that is the case for all of the various Shinju. And this has been proven time after time. Even when Hidari comes back, we have a Jura who is checking up on him to make sure he is still the same. In this instance, if Jura already knew exactly how they were feeling, and they were connected as one biological unit where it would cause them to feel each other's emotions, then Jura would have never posed those questions. And we have this statement right here that backs up everything that I'm saying. So although they are a biological unit coming from the Ten Tails that can all be revived using this almost divine-like tree that is connected to the cube in which we have seen Hidari and also Ryu spawn from, they are not connected by their emotions, meaning that they can't feel each other's emotions out. So in this case, the reason why Jura ends up crying has less to do to the fact that Matsuri is crying herself, but simply due to what Jura is looking at, and it is causing him to feel these emotions. An emotion that is caused due to what Jura is literally seeing take place. Jura is able to see that because of the Renegon. We have already seen with the 6 paths of pain, their Renegons were connected, allowing them to see exactly what was taking place with those Renegons. Whether it is something that only Jura can use to exploit the other Shinju and can see through his Renegon everything that the other Shinju are doing, or it is a common trait possessed by all of the Shinju, is a different story completely. But one thing we can see right here is the fact that Jura was able to see exactly what was taking place, and this observation of what he saw is what has made him cry. Jura, throughout the entire time in the series, whenever he became conscious, his fascination towards books and various sort of information has been one that we have seen time after time. We literally see him go to the leaf to end up getting more books. But what is quite important to note is the fact that Jura, unlike the other Shinju, has always been one step ahead. It is most likely due to his curiosity and his own personality archetype, because he is the only person here that we have seen actually do research on various concepts like love and actually reading books and trying to figure out everything that is happening. Time after time, we see Jura who is telling Hidari various information, like about the Sharingan, about Inoshika-cho. He is the person with knowledge, and it is most likely done through the books that he ends up reading. It is likely that he has read books on love, and throughout this entire arc, he has been one step ahead. This arc has dealt with love, as we can literally see with Konohamaru and Matsuri, and we could also see with Sarada and Boruto, leading to her using her Mangekyo Sharingan in this chapter. Jura was already a step ahead of that, and he told them during this arc that they must overcome love itself. And right here, we're seeing a real life experience of exactly what Jura has been talking about, of how love can be a weakness. We see this with Konohamaru, and we also see this with Matsuri, a Matsuri who hesitated in killing Konohamaru, and a Konohamaru in turn who also hesitated in killing her. This is a lot different from simply reading a book, as it is happening to his own people, it is happening to his own Shinju, and thus it hits harder because he has read about love and now sees the confirmation that this emotion called love is truly a weakness, and it has hurt one of his people. And this hurt is something that I ultimately believe will come to backfire them, as throughout this entire new arc, this arc about Shinobis essentially meeting the Shinju and one by one taking them down, with Jura not coming to the playing field, who is currently waiting for Boruto to make a move so that he can kill him. One thing that has been made quite clear is how malleable the Shinjus are. They are children, wild beast cubs, essentially newborns, and they can be influenced in any sort of direction. And we hear this from Shikamaru, who pushes them to tame them and then destroy them. And we have seen exactly what it has led to. Konohamaru tried his best and ultimately couldn't push out that part of him that wanted to be heartless and then be able to kill Matsuri. So if Matsuri doesn't die, she will end up holding a grudge against the Shinobi. And we have already seen this exact sentiment towards the likes of Ryu. After their failed attempt to end up backstabbing Ryu, we have a Ryu who literally says that it hurts and he will never forget it. And already before even meeting the Shinobi, he was already skeptical about who they were and about if they had good intentions. He already wanted to kill them, but Jura said that they were good people. But throughout their own personal experiences that deviate from what Jura tells them, it will cause them to create their own conclusions of what Shinobis are. People that are essentially a danger to the Shinju, who ended up backstabbing them after they tried to be peaceful and civilized and ended up working with the Shinobi. This will prove to them that Shinobi use people and Shinobis cannot be trusted. And with this interpretation, this will ultimately come to backfire. I don't know how Konohamaru will get himself out of this bind, as this was his final trump card, the Rasengan trump card that he ended up messing up when it comes to Matsuri, and with a Ryu who could be taken care of when it comes to the likes of Sarada, so she may be in the clear, but Matsuri, who ends up holding this grudge against Shinobis, is going to be even more complicated. And let's grant them the benefit, let's say they do end up taking out all of the Shinju that were at the Land of Wind, meaning Ryu and Matsuri. What do you think will happen then to the other Shinju who can literally see what took place? And with a Jura who will push them towards this fact, towards this statement that he has said before of overcoming love, due to the fact that they have the exact experience through being able to see what happened to Matsuri and Ryu, of how love will ultimately come to ruin them, and how Shinobis will ultimately try to play these emotions which they are new to, these new experiences that they have, and will try to use it against them, which makes it even more interesting to see exactly what Jura is doing, as there are multiple times throughout this whole interaction that potentially Jura could have stepped in and ended up helping them out. Jura could have stepped in and made sure that none of the Shinju would put in a sticky bind. You can literally see that they are basically outnumbered with essentially 5 versus 2. So already it wasn't the best of matchup, knowing that they are definitely stronger, but they were already outnumbered. So seeing them in this bind, seeing Matsuri in this bind, Jura continued to stay in his own position, knowing everything that is happening due to him being able to see it through the Renegon, which tells me that Jura is pushing them towards these specific experiences, and these experiences that they're having right now to shape their identity. The experiences we have is what causes us to change, is what causes us to adapt, and by the rest of the Shinju seeing this side of Shinobis, who are essentially just trying to help their people out by bringing them back using their soul thorn. But with the way that it is framed, and I don't know if it was intentional by Jura, but simply seeing how smart Jura is, this is literally perfect towards making the Shinju end up hating Shinobis themselves, as it has been clearly stated that the Shinju are neither good and bad, but can be influenced towards one side to another. And this was essentially Kashin Koji's plan and Shikamaru's plan this entire time. It did lead to good results, like the fact that we have a Sarada who has now been able to use her Mangekyo Sharingan. But seeing how, at the end of the day, we know that the village ends up being destroyed, I believe that these are the key moments. This arc itself is a key moment towards a pivotal change when it comes to the Shinju. The Shinju first approached this situation through talking, through working with the Shinobi. However, it will be a lot harder for it to be the same situation next time. Essentially, whenever they see a Shinju, it might end up becoming kill on sight due to the experiences that they currently have. One of not trusting other people but their kind, simply due to the fact that the Shinobis ended up manipulating them and now they have a grudge. Whether Ryu and Matsuri end up surviving doesn't change the fact that other people like Bug and Hidari are less likely to make the same mistake that they did, and that mistake was trusting Shinobis. And this is why Jura not acting right now, although it could potentially lead to the end of Ryu and Matsuri, what it will do is push the likes of Bug, Hidari, and Jura himself to end up seeing this pattern and agreeing that it is best to overcome this feeling of love. And if they do end up overcoming love, they will be able to eat their target without any problem. We literally see that with Matsuri, who acknowledges that Konohamaru is a danger to him due to the fact that she both wants to devour him and loves him, which ultimately causes this conflict, not allowing her to think clearly, which she has repeated time after time. So it is clear that with all of their targets, there is some sort of love at hand. Whatever version of love you want to call it, love is still playing a big part in the targets in which they have picked, which does tell us that in order for them to be able to devour their targets, they have to be able to overcome love, to not find themselves in a similar position to the likes of Matsuri, who when she met her target was not really able to devour her. And that's why when I go back and check the flash forward scene of the manga, we're essentially still in the backstory of that moment, I can't help but feel like these moments right here and Jura's desire to end up overcoming love will ultimately lead towards the destruction of the world. And to find out more about this love and how love is problematic to Jura, make sure you watch this video right here.